She said I'll turn you on sun into something strong. Play the song with the foggy break. And go-kart Mozart was checking out the weather chart to see if it was safe outside. And little early birdie came by in a skirt of whirly and asked me if I needed a ride. She never thought Tati's gonna make it to the night. She's gonna make it through the night. ever got touch is gonna make it through the night.
Let me give you some advice. The pros.
Everything in life is a negotiation. When you cross the street is a negotiation.
Blinded by the light, wrapped up like a noose, another runner in the night. Blinded by the light, wrapped up like a noose, another runner in the night. Blinded by the light, wrapped up like a noose. Madman drums, bummers, Indians in the summer with the teenage diplomat. In the dumps with the monks at the adolescent bumps his way into his head. With a boulder on my shoulder, feeling kind of older, I trip the merry-go-round. With a fairy up, pleasing, sneezing, and wheezing, the calliope crashed to the ground. She was blinded by the light, wrapped up like a noose, another runner in the night. Blinded by the light, wrapped up like a noose, another runner in the night. Blinded by the light, wrapped up like a noose, another runner in the night. Blinded by the light, wrapped up like a noose. Some silicone sister with the manager mister told me I got what it takes. She said I'll turn you on sun into something strong with a song with a funky break. And go-kart Mozart was checking out the weather chart to see if it was safe outside. And little early birdie came by in his curly whirly and asked me if I needed a ride. Asked me if I needed a ride. Well, she was blinded by the light, wrapped up like a noose, another runner in the night. Blinded by the light, she got down, but she never got touch. She's gonna make it to the night. She's gonna make it through the night. deuce, another runner in the night. Blinded by the light. Wrecked up like a deuce, another runner in the night. In the box with the box of the eyes. Bumps and white deuces. With a boulder on my shoulder, feeling kinda over on track. Deuce go round with his body and knees and his knees and the weeds and the gun and the grass to the ground. I'll start with a slingshot and line. They found a dead skull on the bumper in his hand. As he not shot, forget me not to Hades with it as I take the buckshot, turn up the band. Some say the ghost is stuck, the manager missed nothing. Oh, me, I got a fight face. She said, I told you once I need to something wrong. She got down, but she never got tight. She's gonna make it through the night. Blinded by the light, wrapped up like a deuce, another runner in the night. Blinded by the light, wrapped up like a deuce, another runner in the night. Blinded by the light, wrapped up like a deuce. Madman drums, bombers, Indians in the summer with the teenage diplomat. In the dumps with the monks at the adolescent bumps his way into his hair. With a boulder on my shoulder, feeling kinda older, I tripped the merry-go-round. With his berry up, leaving, sneezing and wheezing, the calliope crashed to the ground. She was blinded by the light, wrapped up like a deuce, another runner in the night. Blinded by the light, wrapped up like a deuce, another runner in the night. Blinded by the light, wrapped up like a deuce, another runner in the night. Blinded by the light, wrapped up like a deuce. Some silicone sister with the manager mister told me I got what it takes. She said I'll turn you on son into something strong. Play the song with the funky break. And go-kart Mozart was checking out the weather chart to see if it was safe outside. And little early birdie came by in his curly whirly and asked me if I needed a ride. Asked me if I needed a ride. Well, she was blinded by the light, wrapped up like a deuce, another runner in the night. Blinded by the light, she got down, but she never got tight. She's gonna make it to the night. She's gonna make it through the night.
Alright, everybody, I think it's about time we get started. So what we've got here is some AI. This little thing down here, this little message that says compiling shaders. Shaders are, they're like a code thing. Everything that exists in Unreal Engine has a shader. Like every physical thing here has a shader that's associated with it. And what I mean by that is, like, if we look at this details panel here, actually, let's look at something that makes a little more sense. Well, you know what? It's not important. The point is that they're going to pop in, and it's going to be colorful in just a little while. So here what I did is I changed my settings, because I want this to look really pretty, because I'm streaming it in 4K, and it should look pretty, you know? So I changed these engine scalability settings to cinematic. And the shaders, okay, so to explain what shaders are, if I find the skeletal mesh associated with this little guy right here, and I look for it with this magnifying glass, I'll find it in what's called the content browser. So if I then open it up, this is my skeletal mesh, and I can dock this window here. Now, if you see a couple of slots here, it says material slots. Well, each material, and again, I can kind of use the magnifying glass to go find this material. Hey, look, we can open it up. This is what you call a material. And the materials are based on shaders. So if I just click anywhere in this gray grid area, I can kind of like come down here and see what type of shader I'm looking at. Looks like it does not have tessellation. It is a masked default lit. Yeah, so there's like some code in the back end here that supplies all these features and lets this talk to the graphics processing unit in your computer. So this is a material that is built on a shader. And these shaders are like DirectX compatible shaders. At least that's what I'm using right now. I'm not using Vulkan or OpenGL. I'm using DirectX. So anyway, now you can see it finished. So something is up here. So watch this. Hey, look, he's all white now. And if we go back to our game, hey, everybody has color. So that's pretty cool. So now what I'm going to do here is just give a demo of what's happening here. This is a game where you can run around. Now, these are your allies, so they will sort of like follow you, but they won't really do a very good job because they're just kind of like dumb AI. But if you can see, they are following me. Now, if I were to go into this friendly town here and start slashing around at these guards, the people in this town are going to flee. They're going to be scared, and the guards are going to fight me and my allies here. So to demonstrate that, I'll go and just start swiping. Like in there, they're like, "Hey, what's going on here?" And if I, keep swiping, people are getting scared. People are running away. They're like, "Oh, there's a criminal out here." And if I just kind of like start trying to fight these guys, and then there's this ranged guy here. He was trying to shoot at me. See, he's actually like, he's pretend shooting at my allies. So I can just keep swiping away at these guards. I can just take them out. And or I can wait for my allies to take them out. Like, I will probably take this guard out, and then I'll wait for my allies to take that guy out. Because they can probably take him. It might take a while, though. So, I don't know. Oh, hey, there, they got him, right? So these are my allies, and we took out all the guards, and now we're going to take out some civilians. Now, they can run really good, so it's actually hard to go fight them. So I'm not even going to bother with like trying to really kill one entirely. Now, some other things that we can do with this little animation pack. By the way, this is a plugin, everybody. So I didn't make all this. This is a plugin. It's a means to an end right now. So another thing that my allies can do is we can run through these chickens, and the chickens will kind of scatter, and like they don't even have a run animation. So it's pretty ridiculous, but that's okay. Now these guys, These guys are kind of like the townsfolk. They are these ninja characters, but they'll remain calm until we try to hurt one of them, and then they'll fight us. See, so they're trying to get me though. See how he's running after me? My allies are trying to hurt him, but he's trying to run after me and swipe me. See, like watch him. He's gonna try to swipe me. Ah, got me right. So these are the ninjas. Their behavior is that, they're just stoic until... And now if we go look at this big guy over here, he is somebody who will actively try to hurt me. So if I get up too close to him, he's like, hey, I don't like you. Now he's going to come over, and he's actually a giant, and he will just try to fight me now. Now my allies, they can try to fight him. Again, he's going to try to come after me. See, he's specifically trying to come after me. But my allies will try to fight him. So that gives you an idea of the basic AI of this particular game, right? We've got allies, we've got enemies, we've got innocent bystanders. So that's a cool little starting point to do some fun stuff. But what I want to do is I want a game where you can drive stuff too. I don't just want people running around on foot. I want to be able to drive stuff too. So what I'm going to do is sort of merge two plugins. This is an actual paid plugin, so these guys are awesome, and you should totally go and buy their plugin. I can show that to you later. I'll show it to you later. But I'm also going to get another plugin that's a free thing that's included with Unreal Engine, and we're going to kind of smash the two together and do some Frankensteining, which is what I'm known for. So to be able to handle opening an entirely a whole nother instance of Unreal Engine, I'm going to strip this down to some bare bones processing here. So I'm going to turn off real time in this little arrow here, because if I turn that off, it's not actively working the GPU and trying to update this scene all the time. And I'm going to go to wireframe, because that means it won't be trying to draw all the fancy shaders that are involved there. And I'm just going to go ahead and do a new level and make it an empty level, right? Because I don't need to really have anything open. I just want to keep this open. So now what I'm going to do is come and right click here and open another instance of Unreal. So while that's opening, I can head back over to my trusty Epic thingy. Well, it's already open, but whatever. Yeah, and I can go and find the vehicle thing that I want. And I believe it's in the Learn tab. So let's go find it. It's like a vehicle game. Something about a vehicle game. It's around here somewhere. Hey, look, vehicle game. Yeah, so that's cool. So, hey, look, we got a free little vehicle game to sandbox. So let's create another project. Now, the trick here, I'll give you guys a little trick. So if I look at the name of this game, I can actually go find it. If you guys didn't know my name, you just have it. Oh well. So if I look at this game, it's called AI Behavior Toolkit, which is, by the way, the name of the plugin. So go definitely buy that because it's awesome. So if I look at this AI Behavior Toolkit, which is super cool, I can make the project name for this other project the same name. So what I'm going to do is go back to the Epic thing, and I'm going to create project. I'm just going to put it in a different location. So for this one, I will make a new folder. I'll call it Unreal Projects. And that's where I'm going to put it. So it's not going to the regular documents folder. So that means I can give it the exact same name as the other project. There's a little trick, you guys. Got to pay attention here. So I will create that. So it's creating the vehicle template plugin project thing. but it's using the same name as this other project. That's going to help later. So once we get this to finish up, we will go ahead and open it up in this other instance of the Unreal Engine. So it's verifying. Hey, where'd my music go? I actually really like to have some music playing in the background. So I don't even know what I want right now. First, let's go to that. That's what we want. Okay, so it looks like we finished making that project. So now we can go to our second instance of the project here. And it says AI Behavior Toolkit, but we know it's actually the vehicle game. So let's get this AI Behavior Toolkit vehicle game project open and start messing around with that and see what we can do with that. We might be able to do something fun. Hey, cool. And look, of course, I got a lot of shaders to build. So I'm trying to like dismiss this little thing here. And so you see these weird like moving things in the background? Those are clouds or like particles or something. They're showing up as giant planes because the shaders haven't compiled. So if the shaders were completely compiled, you'd see like a very hazy, subtle kind of like dust or fog or something floating around over there, because it's like a texture that has an alpha map, and you know it's just like spawning over there. So until that happens, until these shaders compile, we're gonna see this ugliness here. But that's okay, it doesn't really matter, because what we want to find out here, we want to find out how the vehicle game works. So the vehicle game, everything like in Unreal Engine, it has game mode. So you can see the game mode by clicking Window and bringing up the world settings. Now the world settings will appear next to your Details tab here. So you can click the world settings and you can look at this game mode override, VH game mode. So that means vehicle game mode. So we'll go find that. Now we can open this game mode and we can look at what's sort of associated with it here. So it looks like that looks default. This does not. It says game state class. Looks like we've got vehicle game state. That's interesting. So we've got that file. We've got vehicle player controller. So that's a separate file. We've got the vehicle heads up display. So that's going to be a separate file. And we've got the default pawn class, which is vehicle buggy. And look, if we look at this pawn class, that's where we're going to actually see the vehicle itself, because that's what's going to drive around in the world, right? And look, it even has a tiny fake driver in there, which is really cool. So that's pretty cool that it has this cool little driver in there. And so again, this is the pawn class. Then the last thing that we have here that might be important is we have server stat replicator class, but it looks like that's a standard engine class, so we're not going to worry about that. So shaders are almost done compiling, and we can actually play this vehicle game and see what kind of cool stuff goes on here. Oh, so pretty straightforward. So it looks like if we click in here, we've got like a brake or something, and we can use WASD to start driving around. We got speedometer going on. If I hold shift, I wonder what that does. I don't know if that actually did anything for me. If I hold space, looks like space is a brake, right? So I could like power slide. Oh, a little too much. Yeah, so that's cool. So I'll try to like power slide around here. Yeah, the handling is like not bad on this. It's not like, you know, Forza or, you know, anything like that. It's not that good, but it's not bad. I just want to mess around with it. So yeah, it's kind of cool. So you got a basic vehicle game here. And if we kept playing that, we could probably like, you know, do some laps and like win the game. But I don't really care about that. I don't really care about doing all that. What I care about is merging this game with the other game And if you remember, the other game that we have here is our AI behavior toolkit. Now, if we were to look at our AI behavior toolkit, and if we opened up that level that we had there, examples, role-playing game that we had, we would notice that there's actually a world settings here too, and there's a blueprint for the game mode. So again, here's our game mode for this game. So it looks like we've got game modes for everything, which is kind of cool. So let's see. I'm just going to respond to a couple of friends here, telling them I'm making a video game in Unreal Engine. Looks like another buddy of mine. Yeah, so I'm making this video game, and it's going to be great. So, what we're doing here is we want to merge this vehicle game. So the first thing that I'm going to do is, before we can start like migrating a bunch of stuff over, we need to check some settings. So I'm going to go into this whole project settings setup here, and one thing that's definitely going to be important is the input section. Now I say that because every project has input settings, and in those input settings we have action mappings and we have axis mappings. So if I were to start like trying to migrate a bunch of stuff over before duplicating these things, we would have a serious problem. So remember, we're in the vehicle game right now, and we can turn off this real time, and let's just go to unlit so that it's not working so hard to render everything. Let's go to these action mappings, and we're just going to start expanding them out. There's not too many of them, which is really nice. So now if we alt-tab back over to our AI behavior toolkit, we also are going to have some action mappings in here. Now, these are fine. We don't want to remove those, but we do want to add the action mappings that we have in this other game here. So what we're going to do, I count 3 action mappings and 2 axis mappings, okay? So I'm going to just go ahead and make 3 new action mappings. And let's look at our axis mappings because they might move forward, move right. Hey, look, there's a move forward and move right already there. So we're not going to need that. Sorry, getting a call. 1 second, folks. Hold on real quick. I have to mute my stream so I am not talking to you live right now. 1 second. Okay, folks, we're back. And again, we have to copy over these action mappings. So, whoops. So let's go over to our back on track. We need that one. So that's going to be our first one. Back on track. We need in-game menu. In-game menu. And we need handbrake. Handbrake. Okay, and now we need to assign the same keys. So we got a backspace and gamepad special left. So let's go choose this drop-down box, backspace, and then we're going to need gamepad special left. Okay, that's good. So now we also need for the second one here, we need the escape button and gamepad special right. So the escape button, and let's do gamepad special right. Aha, gamepad special right. And for our handbrake, we have gamepad left shoulder, left shoulder, and we have spacebar and left mouse button. So spacebar and left mouse button. So what that means is that all of those keys will perform the same function for this. Okay, so we've got our action mappings in here. Now we need to make sure that our axis mappings are looking the same. So it looks like our axis mappings on our vehicle game might be a little more complicated. So our move forward axis mapping is WS up and down. So let's look at our. So we got WS up and down, but we have all these other things happening right here. So like in here, it's listing it as gamepad left thumbstick Y-axis, and that is not at all what we're experiencing with our RPG game, or I mean with our vehicle game. So with our vehicle game, our move forward is set to like gamepad right trigger and left trigger, and the right trigger and left trigger axis. So that means that if we were to move our left thumbstick on the Y-axis in our RPG game, we would actually end up causing the vehicle to move forward. So that's going to be interesting, but I'm just going to leave that as is. I don't plan on doing anything about that, because we're not going to use a gamepad right now anyway. So and we've already got WS up and down, so that's fine. So let's check our other axis, which is move right, and that's A and D and right and left. So let's look at our move and right. And look, we already have A and D, we just don't have right and left, because I have a feeling that our turn rate is actually using right and left. So that just means that we're going to have to use A and D. So that's good enough for our axes. So now what we can do is actually start migrating some content. So the first thing that I'm going to migrate is the game mode. That's going to be important because we'll need to stitch these two game modes together. So I'm going to right click on this game mode. I'm going to say Asset Actions, Migrate, and I'm going to leave everything checked because it's going to give me everything that's associated with that game mode. And I'm going to migrate it all, and I'm actually going to find the original project here, which is the behavior toolkit, like the real one, and go into the content here. And once I have my content folder, I'm inside it. I'm just going to say select folder, and it's going to migrate a lot of stuff. And you can click this message log, and it's going to tell me that, hey, looks like I migrated everything successfully. So that is great news. So now, just to minimize our GPU and CPU that's being sucked up by this program, I'm going to make sure and go to wireframe, keep it in the off real time, and I'm going to create a new blank level, and I don't need to have any of these tabs open. So now I can go back to my RPG game mode, and if I play it, we can see everything still works here the way that it's supposed to. But what if I go to all this awesome content that's been created, and I know that under vehicles, vehicle buggy, that I've got all my stuff here. So just for shits and giggles, why don't we just try throwing this game mode in here? So instead of BP game mode, we're just going to try to use VH game mode. So I just substituted that in there, the VH game mode. And it might not have worked, but that's okay, we'll make it work. Aha! It said it could not be loaded because it derives from an invalid class. So I don't want to continue because that could crash the game. So since it derives from an invalid class, we just have to find out why. So if I open the vehicle game mode and I open the blueprint editor and I look at class settings, I can see that the parent class is actually vehicle game mode. So I see what the word is here, like it says vehicle game mode. So I need to find out where that's placed. So I'm going to see if it's in this area, game mode. So this tells me it's not actually a regular asset. So that means that it's a C++ class. Lo and behold, there it is. It is definitely a C++ class. So this is going to get a little tricky. Because if we have to code things, that makes it a little bit more challenging, but completely doable. So how we can get started on this? Well, now that we've identified that it's actually going to require some code, we need to come up with a way that we can organize this. So we know that vehicle game has its own C++ classes. We know that the, what is this called here? The AI Behavior Toolkit may or may not have C++ classes. So if it does not, we need to convert it to a C++ project. Okay? So first let's look at that. So we've got this vehicle game mode. It definitely has C++ classes. So I bet you if we go find our vehicle game here, I think it's going to be in here, because this is where we made it. If we look inside, even though it says AI Behavior Toolkit, if you remember our little trick that we did, our trick says that we actually used the same naming convention. So this is the vehicle game mode. And for some strange reason, even though there's a C++ class in here, this is the weirdest part. There's definitely a custom C++ class in here, but as you'll notice, there's no solution file. There's no Visual Studio solution file. So you might be thinking to yourself, how are you going to have a custom class with no solution file? Well, this is some sort of like little magic that Epic has done when they package together this cool little vehicle game mode that they've got. So, but that's no matter, because we can fix that problem. Let me just check on this stream health here. Looks like we, okay, looks good. Okay, so we can definitely fix that. So how we're going to fix that is we will first convert the vehicle game mode, or the vehicle game into its own C++ code project. And the maps that we had open, see, I don't even remember what. Desert Rally Race is probably the one that we were looking at. If I hit play, 3, 2, 1. Yep, that's definitely the one. So, get my brakes, power sliding. I wonder if I can, there's got to be some jumps that I can go up. What happens if I run into these cones? Oh, it wasn't cones, these were barriers. Anyway, let's not get distracted too much here. So, what we need to do is add some code to this. So, the best way that I've found to do this is click File, New C++ class. So, let's just do that. And I'm just going to say that it's an actor. Now, again, we're just doing this to get our solution. So I'm going to say it's an actor. I'm going to click Next. And I'm just going to leave it as my actor, because it's just not really that important. And now we can see that there's actually a couple of different modules. There's vehicle game and vehicle game loading screen. So I'm just going to go with vehicle game. I don't want vehicle game loading screen. And my target folder's fine. That's fine. It's my actor. It's got a public and private file. This is called a header file. And this is the source file, CPP file. So that's where the implementation is going to reside. So we'll go ahead and create class. Now, once we do this, it's actually going to convert this into a code project. so that we can open Visual Studio and recompile this entire project before we use it. And if we're lucky, the hot reload function might work as well. Like say if we're lucky, because I've had some issues with that in the past. It doesn't always work. But as we can see, our C++ code is compiling, so that's good news, because that's going to be the first step on successfully stitching these two projects together, so we can have both fighting people, running around with swords and everything, but also a vehicle. Because that's what we want for this fun little game that we're making. So as this code compiles, let's bring back the best song in the world right now and get started here. Because the problem that we're having is with the AI behavior toolkit, you may notice... okay, looks like our solution loaded. So it looks like our solution is loading because now we actually have a solution for our vehicle game project, which is really cool. So we're loading our solution. Now we're preparing our solution. So now look, we have myactor.cpp and myactor.h. That's the header file and the CPP file I was referring to. So the neat thing is, it's already set up a sort of default class structure for us, so we don't even have to do anything. We can literally say file save all. And by the way, this is Visual Studio 2017, so you'll need to install that if you want to follow along. See here. But I'll just right click on the game, underneath the games folder here, the AI behavior toolkit. I will right click on it and choose build. And so what that'll do is build, one succeeded. So it built it, and now if I go back to the AI behavior toolkit, granted that's the wrong one because I want to go to the vehicle one, it should have my new class in place. So under C++ classes, I should be able to say compile and find this new class. I should have already done that once and possibly hot reloaded it, but I'm just doing it to be on the safe side. So compile complete. So now if I open up my vehicle game and I look at my private classes, maybe it's going to be in my public classes. I have my actor. Look at that. So there it is. There's my new class. It's called my actor. And that means that if I made a blueprint object, I can have it derive from this C++ class. So the reason why that's really good news is that now I have access to all these other classes that came with the vehicle game. So what I mean is, if I head back over to Visual Studio, I can see I have a source folder here. So in the source folder, I have my two modules. I've got my vehicle game and my vehicle game loading screen. And I can expand out all these files, and those will actually show me the entire implementation for this vehicle game. So it's actually really cool because, now here's the really, really cool part of it. My actor there's a vehicle game API here. So that's the funny part, is we've got this vehicle game API. I'm pretty sure if I tried to duplicate this structure, like just by copying and pasting it, it's not going to work. So what I mean by that is that this vehicle game API is going to be different for the AI behavior toolkit. So I forgot which project I'm in. Oh, that's the vehicle project. So now let's go back to our actual AI behavior toolkit, and let's convert this to a code project now. So we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to do file well, because if we look at our view options here and we say show engine content, it shows C++ classes, but we don't have any C++ classes here. So we've got to convert this to a code project. So let's do new C++ class, and let's make it like the exact same thing, an actor. Now, but here's where we see it. We don't have vehicle game modules here. We don't have them. So what we can do is just leave it as AI Behavior Toolkit runtime. And we'll just add my actor that way. Because it's still going to convert it to a code project, but we just need to keep in mind here that we don't have the same code structure as we see over here. Because if we looked in our source folder, we had vehicle game and vehicle game loading screen. Over here we have AI Behavior Toolkit. So there's going to be some differences that we need to reconcile before all of this is going to work. And you can see it's compiling code now for our actual AI Behavior Toolkit project. And once that comes up, we can start kind of moving some things over. But we got to wait for it to come up first. And I'm actually very curious what the differences are going to be here. They're probably going to be a little subtle, but should be fine. Still compiling. So again, what we're doing at this step is we are converting our actual AI Behavior Toolkit to a code project. And great, it's coming up. And it's opening up our actor that we just created. No, we created a C++ class called myActor. And it's going to pre-populate some cool little like Unreal Engine logic with that. So that's what we're looking at so far. So here, you see how we have this pre-populated stuff. Like if you just created a blank C++ program in Visual Studio, you wouldn't get this stuff. This is pre-populated when you create a new custom class specifically using the Unreal Engine, the interface there. So we've got the header file and the actor and the CPP file. So let's go ahead and save all, and we'll do the exact same thing we did with the other project. We'll right-click here and choose Build, and it should go pretty fast. Yep, one succeeded. So now if we head back into what is our literal custom, hey, we've got this C++ classes file, or group here. So now we've got the myActor. Okay, so that's really important. We've got the myActor. So now we actually have two Visual Studio projects open. We've got the vehicle game over here, and we've got the AI Behavior Toolkit over here. So now we basically need to make sure that everything in the vehicle game over here is in the AI Behavior Toolkit. It's not going to be at the moment because if we expand this, we'll really care about the source folder right here. That's what we really care about. So if we expand the source folder, we can see that the source folder has a module called AI Behavior Toolkit, but this one has a module called Vehicle Game. So even though we made the game, even though we retitled the game to be called AI Behavior Toolkit, it didn't change the source code. Do we see that? Do we understand what that means? And, so that's an interesting little kind of nuance. Now, we're going to take a risk here because what's happening is we've got this loading screen and we've got a vehicle game. I don't really care too much about the loading screen. That's not, I don't really even, it doesn't matter to me. But the vehicle game does matter to me. So if I want to be able to use this vehicle game mode, which is what we were looking at, I need to find it. So if I go back to my actual vehicle game, and if you can remember, I was looking at my game mode and I looked at the class settings here and it was vehicle game mode, spelled, capital letters with a space in between. So I searched for that in my C++ classes. I searched for vehicle game mode and it found it. So if I just want a very easy way to open that up, I can actually double click it now and it should open up right here, and lo and behold it did. So now I've got the vehicle game mode open, and if I look at it here, vehicle game mode CPP, there's got to be a way to like find it in the solution here. Like I can open the containing folder, but that's not really what I want to do. I suppose, you know, I could just type it in this. Yeah. Just type it right there. Search for it that way. So the problem is it kind of takes a long time. Okay, so we have generated. We don't care about the generated. We care about the stuff in the source. So here's our header file, and then we can close our search criteria to go right to it. So we've got the header file, and then we've got the CPP file over here. Vehicle game mode H, vehicle game mode CPP. Okay, so it's important to note that is where that game mode lives. So let's look at the header file, because that's going to be our first bag of worms here. So first you'd think that if we want this to work, we need to actually create something called vehicle game mode.h and .cpp. So to do that, we can head on over to, well, first of all, let's see if it derives from anything. A actor. Looks like it derives from actor. Forward declarations. Well, anyway, it doesn't really matter. The point is that we've got the header file and the CPP file, so that should be fine. So now if we go over to this AI behavior toolkit here, we're going to need similarly a header file and a CPP file in the AI behavior toolkit stuff here. So interestingly enough, we have a private and public folder under the vehicle game. So the reason why we're not seeing those folders here is I don't think we have any private classes. We might, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. So what we can do though is, since we know we want it in a private and public folder, we can a new filter. Yeah, it's got a filter here. Public. I think that's what that is. It's a filter. So let's add a new filter and private. Good, good. And it looks like we've got our resources. Yeah, we've got a resources thing here. And that resources doesn't really have anything super important that I care about, so I'm not going to bother with that right now. So now that we have our private and public folders, we can see that our vehicle game mode.h is in here. I'm kind of wondering if our vehicle game mode comes from vehicle game.h. It probably does. If we just copy and paste everything over, it's probably going to, it's probably going to give us a bunch of flack that it's not called, that this isn't in here too. And we made that. Remember, we made my actor. So we've got a blueprint library, a vehicle game. So there's a way to really cheat with this. It's going to be pretty obscene, but it will work. So these are our header files, and these are where all of our CPP files are going to be for these things. So the way to cheat is we can, first off, we can just make all these. They're going to be under the public. So now we can say add new item, or we can say class wizard, base class. Yeah, we probably do need to see what the base classes are. So our vehicle blueprint library base class is going to be a blueprint function library. So what we can do now is if we click on that to grab, and we can copy the name of it right there, And so in our in our true AI behavior toolkit, we can actually create another class. So we can say new C++ class. And now in this screen, that's where we're going to say we're going to click show all classes so we can create our blueprint function library. That's where we're going to choose that. That's the parent class that our class that we're making is going to be based on. So click next. We are going to give it the same name as in the other project there, and we're going to make it public so that it shows up in public. So let's go ahead and create that class. It's going to compile the code, and it should show us down here in our Visual Studio icon that we're going to have like some new stuff down there. Ah, see, it's flashing, so it's going to say, hey, now you've got this cool handy dandy vehicle blueprint library. And if you'd see, it showed up right where we wanted it. The vehicle blueprint library, and then we've got the CPP file. So if we build this, it should be fine because we don't have anything. Yeah, it's one succeeded. Looks good. So now what we can do, this is where we start. Well, first we're going to make all these. We're not going to try to just do one at a time. So I don't really care about that right now. So we got our vehicle blueprint library. Now let's look at our vehicle game. Our vehicle game appears to be, gosh, I don't even know what this is. Vehicle game.h. I actually think this might be with editor. Yep, have no idea what this is, unfortunately. Vehicle game classes. Uses engine.h. Let's see if it has a CPP file associated with it. No, it does not. So that's important to notice here, is that we've got all these CPP files, which is where, if this were packaged into runtime executable, all of these would be converted to binary and therefore hidden, and that would be like the secret sauce of that game company. So because there is no just vehicle game corresponding CPP file, we can be pretty sure that this is something that we need to have without an implementation. There's no implementation there. So what we need to do then, I believe, is just create it using Visual Studio. I think that's going to be the best way to go. Now, we know that it's in the public filter here. So we'll right-click on public, and we'll say add new item. And we're just going to call it, it's going to be a .h, a header file. And we're going to rename it to vehicle game with the capital letters. Add. Okay. So we've got it, and as you can see, like, we've got this Pragma Once business, and these are all comments, the green ones. So now we've got a bunch of Unreal stuff, and we're not gonna do anything with it yet. Let's see if it'll compile though. Let's just at least do that. It's an empty class, so it should be fine. Yeah, so it can still compile. But now we've got it there. And the reason why we're not going to copy paste anything yet is because, look, it's trying to include vehicle game classes. Well, vehicle game classes exists here somewhere, but it doesn't exist in our structure yet. So we're definitely not going to do that yet. So, but now we've got my actor. So if we look at our header files, we have my actor, which really belongs in public. So I'm going to move that into public. And I'm going to move the CPP file for my actor in private. So we've got my actor, we've got vehicle blueprint library, we've got vehicle game. Now we need vehicle game mode.h. And again, we can copy the perfect file name in there, right there by copying that. And we want to look at what this is derived from. The vehicle game mode says it is a U class, and it derives from game mode base. So that's very important to notice, because now if we head back into our AI Behavior Toolkit actual project, we can add a new C++ class, click Show All Classes, and search for game mode base. That's going to be our parent class. We'll click Next. We will paste in our vehicle game mode here, make sure it's set to public, and create class. So it's going to compile, and that'll pop up in our folder structure. And we can see this one is flashing. So yeah, now we've got vehicle game mode base. And just to be on the safe side, we'll go ahead and build the project again, and we're still succeeding. Good news, still succeeding. Now, I know this says, this is giving me a warning here. It's not actually important. Visual Assist X is supposed to fix that, but it's not. So I don't care about it, because obviously we have no. I bet you the real issue is that the warning level is set too high. If I right click on my solution and somewhere in here there's a warning level I can set. I'm not too worried about it right now. We might need to figure out why it's bothering us with that right now, but we're just not going to care about it at the moment. Because IntelliSense is important, but we're just going to move on. So vehicle game mode.h exists. So now it looks like we need vehicle game state.h. So we'll copy that file name, and we can see that it's a game state base kind of class. So let's head back into our behavior toolkit, do a new class, show all classes, game state base. It's going to be our parent class. We're going to change that to vehicle game state and create class. And we'll compile code. While that's happening, I'm just going to check my messages. Okay. And yes, we have new code here. Cool. Let's build it. And of course, it will succeed. So you can see this is going to take a while, but we're getting there. Now, vehicle game user settings.h. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. It looks like it's a game user settings. Game user settings. Interesting. So let's go ahead and new C++ class. And we're going to search for game user settings for our parent class. Looks good. Let's overwrite that and create class. Okay, we've got our new class. User settings, cool, looks good. Let's see what our next one is. Vehicle game viewport client. Let's go ahead and copy the file name. And we can notice that it is a U game viewport client. So we can ignore the U. It's just going to be game viewport client. So let's go back into our AI Behavior Toolkit and do new C++ class, show all classes. And it's a game viewport client. There we go. And let's paste our file name in, create class, wait for this to compile. Okay, looks good. We've got that. Now let's come in here and get our last public header file, which is called vehicle types. And we'll look at it, and it appears to be a structure. T array of F class vehicle menu item. Okay, interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. So, does it have a corresponding CPP file? Vehicle types. It does not. So again, we've identified another piece of code here that does not appear to have a corresponding implementation file. So what that tells me is I can just go ahead and create it over here. So I will add a new item. It's going to be a header file, and it's going to be titled what I paste in from my clipboard, vehicle types, and I'll go ahead and add it. So I got vehicle types. So that's good news. Okay, now the next thing that we will need to do is create all the stuff for these other things. Everything that's in these other filters. And there is a lot of them, but there's no getting around it. So I think the first thing that would be the logical thing to do is actually create these filters. So we're going to need them in public and private. So I'm just going to start with the top one, and we can copy it to the clipboard, and we can say add a filter, effects, and now we need pawns, add a filter, and we've got pawns. Now we need the player category, add a filter, and player. And we need the sound category. Add a filter, and we have sound. And we need the track category, which we probably won't really end up using because I don't really care about it, but we'll still create it for now, just to be on the safe side. Now we need the user interface filter. Okay, we've got all our filters. Now let's see if we can copy all them and paste them here. Oh, can't do that. Huh. Apparently show all file this is turned off. So that's okay. We'll just do it just like we did. Uh-oh. UI. Yep. So we've got UI, track, sound, player, pawns, and effects. Okay, so we've got all of our filter groups here. So now we can go and start creating our header files, which are down here in the public structure. So we'll go to effects, and that's where we're going to need our first one here, which is going to be vehicle dust type. Now we can see that our vehicle dust type is a type of the parent U data asset. We can drop the U, so what that means is we can copy the name to our clipboard as we have been doing, and we can go back to our actual AI behavior tree, and we can say C++ class, show all filters. Now it should just be data asset. There it is, data asset. So it's going to be called vehicle dust type, and it's still just going to put it in this base area, but we can move it where we want it. So we'll create class, it'll compile it, and then we'll move those CPP and header files into the proper filter when they're done. Okay, so we should actually have that vehicle dust type, which appears to be here. So we'll move the dust type into effects, and we'll move the vehicle dust type CPP file into its corresponding effects folder. Now, just to be making sure we're doing everything right, we can right click on the game here and build it. And we should have 1 succeeded, 0 failed. That's what we want to see right down here. 1 succeeded, 0 failed. So that looks to be working like it's supposed to. So now let's look at our vehicle impact effect. We'll grab the file name, and it's of a type actor. That makes it pretty easy. Come in here and add a class, actor. And it's giving us this little red warning because we've already created my actor. We've already made that. And it's in public, good. Create the class. That'll give us our sort of setup logic, and it will give us our corresponding CPP file, which, you know, the class wizard in Visual Studio would also give us that, but it's nice to have that little bit of extra blueprint logic that comes with Unreal. So vehicle impact effect. So we can put that also in effects. So vehicle impact effect CPP can come in here, and impact effect H can come into here. Okay, so now we've got those files. And if we even drill down further, we can see the different class information here. So let's close the effects here, and let's open pawns. That's going to be our next filter that we're worried about. So we got a buggy pawn. So let's copy our buggypawn.h, and we're going to see that it's so this is where we're going to run into some interesting stuff here. The type that buggy pawn resides from is called wheeled vehicle. Now, my bet is that if we go search for that and try to find that in all classes, we probably wouldn't find it. So let's see if wheeled vehicle is in the player. Now, it might be a built-in class. It might very well be a built-in class, and it's looking that way. So let's see if we can find wheeled vehicle just in Unreal Engine. Did I copy that to the clipboard? I think I did. Buggy pawn of type wheeled vehicle. So I guess, you know, we can just give it a shot here. Find it, C++ class, and let's search for wheeled. Hey, wheeled vehicle is a kind of class. So I was wrong. It's a built-in type in Unreal Engine. So we'll paste that in, we'll create it, and then we'll move it to its appropriate filter after it's been created. Okay, so we've got, if we scroll down here, we now have our buggy pawn header file, and we can move it into our pawns filter. We'll do that same thing with this. We'll move it into our pawns filter, which is in a different alphabetical order here than it is. It doesn't matter. So we've got that one. Now we need the vehicle movement component boosted. So it looks like there were going to be some cool little speed boosts in there that we can explore later. So we'll copy the file name in here. We want to look in here that we can see it's actually a public wheeled vehicle movement component for wheel. Whew, that's a mouthful. So let's go into Unreal and we'll create a new class here. And we're going to say show all. And we want to find wheeled vehicle movement component for wheel. Cool. So select that. Let's paste in our vehicle movement component boosted for wheel. Now this is the really annoying part of some things that get deprecated. So the problem is it's actually telling us that our file name is too long. But as you can tell, like, we copied it directly from this other project. So when the other project was made, that was just fine. You know, it was just fine for it to be that long. So this is really quite annoying. So it says class name must not be longer than 32 characters. So what we can do then is we'll just abbreviate. We'll type VM. You know, everything before here, we'll just type VM. So we go VM component boosted, vehicle movement component boosted, and we will create class that way. And I'm just going to see if I can bypass Unreal's stuff that I'm... So, those of you that are out there watching, I've got a buddy of mine that says, wouldn't it be easier to just change your computer oil? Very impressive. Thanks for... Yes, I think my friend is right. I think if I just got down under the hood of my computer down here and give it some new oil, I think all of our problems would miraculously vanish. They really would. So, let's go back to what we're talking about here. The vehicle movement component boosted. See, so we're missing a lot of... well, first it's in the wrong place. We need to put it in pawns. So let's go back to our boosted thing. And put it in pawns. And then boosted. Put it in pawns. Now, I don't like that it has a different file name. So there's some problems that we're going to run into. First, we'll look at the header file. VM component boosted. See, so it's titled UVM. So I can't just copy paste now. I mean, I can't just rename. I can rename the file, but then it's going to break. Like the whole dang thing is going to break when I build it. And I'll tell you. I'll show you what I'm talking about. It's in the right spot, and I can grab this file name of both the header file, and I can just rename it, and then I can grab the same thing for the CPP file. I can grab the the name, which there was no reason for me to do that because it's going to be the exact same. So, and then I can change that name as well. But the problem now is that it's pre-generated Unreal logic is it's going to be different than what it's named here. So if I build, I think I'm going to get an error. We'll fix it, but let's just see if I do get an error. In fact, I'm almost certain I'm going to get an error. Yeah, see, it failed. So one failed, and the reason is that it's gonna say, like, the CPP file. If we just look at the CPP, look, it's looking for the wrong file name. So maybe it'll fix it if I give it the correct file name. That might fix the error. If not, we're gonna have to drill down a little bit more into the rest of the logic in there, because eventually we're just gonna be copying and pasting everything. And yeah, it failed again, and that's because in our boosted blah blah blah, this is completely a different file. So look at that, totally different. That one's the same, and that one's the same. So that looks good. Let's go back into our CPP file. That looks good. So this might build now, because there shouldn't be anything wrong with it. So we changed the names so that they all match up the way they're supposed to. And we still got a failed. So, see, so changing the names seems to be something that really pissed off our stuff here. And we just have to go find out where it got pissed. Yeah, it got angry somewhere. Possibly we need to clean it. See, because everything is showing like it should be working fine now, but we might need to clean our solution. So now if we say clean, so that it sort of regenerates everything without relying on existing compiled code, we still might get a fail, but if we do, we will continue to troubleshoot that. Yeah, so we did get a fail. So that's probably because in here, so the reason why is in here we still have this shortened vehicle boosted blah blah blah. So let's paste the correct name into there. And I'm going to pause the stream because I have some visitors. So I'm gonna mute my volume, and we may be done for the night. We'll see. Okay, folks, thank you for your patience, but we are going to need to go ahead and close the stream now because we're out of time today. So again, what we're doing, just to recap, is we've got this cool little plugin that lets us fight guards. It lets us scare away townsfolk. Look at these townsfolk. They're so scared they're running away. And it also lets us fight enemies over there. Yeah, so we can fight some enemies. And if we look, we actually do have some other examples here of a shooter game. So if we looked at our shooter game, we'll look at that one later. And then what we're doing with this other project here, which is a vehicle game. 3, 2, 1. Hey, here's our vehicle game. And there's some sort of boost in there at some point. We're just merging those two together. And so what we've done so far to accomplish that is we're duplicating the custom code class structure from the actual vehicle game into the AI behavior toolkit over here. So that's what we're doing, and we got to a certain point. We've got, we're having some issues with the vehicle movement component boosted 4-wheel class. That might have actually solved it, what I just did. So we'll just build that. But then we're going to be done for the night, folks, because I've got some other things going on. But I will kind of pick up this stream in the near future. Looks like something is working now because we're not getting an error. So I'll go ahead and let that go. And if it says succeeded, then we're in luck. But for tonight, I'm going to be signing off. So thank you for joining Ninjas at Noon. And hey, look, we got a build succeeded. And the reason is that we changed this generated class to read correctly. So always leave things in a not broken state. And we have done that because we just showed that our AI Behavior Toolkit project can be successfully compiled. And compilation complete, and we can still play, which is cool. So thanks for tuning in, folks. Have a great evening, and stay classy, San Diego. I'm just kidding. Emerald City, that's where it's at, folks. Have a good night. That's where the fun is. To the eyes of the sun. That's where the phone is. You heard it straight from Manfred's mouth.